A short and scenic drive along New Mexico State Highway 28 just outside of Las Cruces will take you through the pastoral Mesilla Valley. The combination of soil, climate, and the nurturing Rio Grande have helped create a cornucopia of crops and ranches in this stretch of the valley. Namely, our world-famous chili, endless pecan groves, and not to be forgotten, grapes. Yes, that's right, Mesilla Valley is New Mexico's version of Napa. And while California may be the most famous wine-producing state, the fact is, priests here in New Mexico were making wine more than 100 years before grapes were even planted in the Golden State. And the southwestern region of our state is where it all began. So it is only fitting to whet my palate for New Mexico wines on an afternoon's tasting tour of Mesilla Wineries. Cruising past horses grazing in the field under canopies of pecan trees, you will come across notable vintners like Rio Grande Vineyard and Winery. You may also stop at Amara Winery. And let's not forget Lavinia, the oldest winery in New Mexico. At Lavinia, an enchanting courtyard garden welcomes you, and undoubtedly, more enticements await inside.
Hi there, how are you?
Good, good, good.
Welcome.
Thank you so much. The facility is beautiful. Just, walking around the grounds, this beautiful ambiance that smells of wine. I know there's cheese around, kind of my environment. I love that kind of environment. But I also heard that you guys have, the oldest winery in New Mexico.
You're here, oldest winery in New Mexico.
Lavinia, here I am.
Right. New Mexico is the oldest wine growing region in the United States.
So it started with the Spanish, right, when they came?
Right. Yeah, the Spanish came and they actually went up close to Albuquerque and started their missions up there, and they didn't want to import the wine from Spain, so somebody brought some cuttings and they started growing grapes and making wine. And so our history of grape growing in New Mexico is very, very old, and that doesn't mean that we're still growing those grapes. Nobody grows mission grapes anymore.
Right.
So people keep trying new grapes all the time.
But that kind of experimental spirit is very much alive in New Mexico when it comes to wines.
You bet.
So let's get to the tasting. So
all right.
What's some of your favorites, so I can just jump into that?
Cabernet's fine in the wintertime. Wintertime, I'm going to say Cabernet. This time of year, I want to say lighter red.
So what do you say to the average consumer, maybe someone who's not necessarily fully versed in the type of varietals, but they know they like a good red wine with their steak, they like a good white wine with their fish, or whatever that is. So how do you go about educating? Is this an educational facility as well as a tasting?
And that is, a tasting room is all about that. It's how do you get people started at the right spot in the tasting menu? First of all, we tell them to start in the area that we think that we want them to be at. We don't want people starting on the sweet end of the spectrum and then jumping back up to the dry end.
Right.
They're not going to like that.
You're never going to go to some sweet. You can't go for the ice cream and then go to the broccoli, right?
No, you can't do that. So we say, what kind of wine do you normally drink? And we'll start about there, or a little bit drier.
All this talk of the wine and the tasting the wines is great, but I want to see maybe behind the scenes of how it all comes together. Can I do that?
Sure, we can do that.
All right, let's do it.
Go look around.
Kent leads me outside to their vines where the grapes are ripe for the picking.
These would be, let's see what they are.
You can tell by just tasting.
Riesling.
Riesling. So how can you tell that's a Riesling?
Just knowing how it tastes, knowing what the leaf looks like.
Oh, so the different varietals have literally the anatomy of the plant looks different as well? Okay.
Yeah. That's how you tell what they are, is kind of look at the leaf.
That's interesting. So like this one seems like a smaller leaf.
Yeah.
This one's bigger. But they can grow intermingle. They can intermingle nonetheless. I tell you, you learn something new every day. Wine 101 taught while sipping on the product itself, not too shabby. When you're at Lavinia, take the time to actually relax. You've got gardens outside, the view of the Oregon Mountains across the way, and you can even bring your own picnic to enjoy on the patio. And if you make it out here on a Sunday, they have a seasonal market out front with local produce and crafts, as if the wine wasn't enough. And on top of that, they have live music afterwards. Beyond the Mesilla Valley, there are tons of great tasting rooms and vineyards around the state. For more information, maps, and events, go to newmexico.org.